Hi guys, I'm Ksenia, welcome to my channel. Last week I did a video about how my high-paying soul-sucking job basically led to my burnout and financial collapse, more or less. And I thought that I'd do a little, not a follow-up exactly, but I thought I'd talk about why working for a big company might actually be good this week. And I honestly believe that, even though I told my kind of story, right, how I worked for this big company and it kind of ended not so nice for me. But, it's just what happened. But even though I personally now prefer small to medium companies, they just have less resources for the bullshit, they can't afford to have a whole team of people following some random metrics and doing things that don't really make a lot of sense business-wise. I think also there's just less layers in general. There are not too many hurdles, basically, to getting things done, which is nice. I mean, depends on the company, of course, but in general, that's at least my experience. Also, you get to work on different tasks, more or less, which can be toxic if you are like in a startup and they are abusing you and making you work, do the job of 5 different people. But there are also many cases where you just end up picking up little things here and there, and also people ask you like if you are interested in trying this and that, so you can get a lot of different experience over a relatively short period of time. So that's why I think smaller companies are a nicer option for me. But still, I do believe that there is a lot of value in working for a large company, and I have a few points I wanted to mention. And first one might come off as a bit weird, but for me as a business management student, when I came into workspace, into the company after my uni, I was kind of not shocked, but it was really nice to see how they basically have everything structured and designed, and like the processes, the way they are created, it all is as if they've taken it from a business book, so there were all those things I've been reading about, learning about, doing case studies about, and here I was watching it in real time. And also because I came into the company at the time when it was already big, but it was still kind of in an active growth phase, I got to see a lot of changes that also followed those kind of golden rules and best practices, and this was kind of interesting. That gave me a lot of real life experience to my theoretical knowledge that I got at the uni. This was nice. And I think it's in general, whether or not you're entrepreneurial, if you want to start a business or not, it's kind of great to see how those big organizations, they are formed, they're they're structured, they're functioning. I think it's valuable to anyone, really. Reason number 2 why I think working for big companies can be nice, it's that you get to experience how things are supposed to be, how they should be, in terms of the projects that the company runs and campaigns that they arrange, because they have the money to do it as it's supposed to. With a smaller business, you don't really have that. I mean, depends. If you just received a round of investments, probably that's fine for you, but normally you don't have those huge budgets for marketing campaigns. You can't just give out $200,000, $300,000 here and there to sponsor events like on a higher level, things like that, to participate there. And you just get to see the scale of things that's possible, that again, those big companies operate on, and you get to experience them as an employee. For example, like if you work in marketing and you end up planning all those campaigns, right, and working with big numbers and just doing all that, you get to see how things can be done on an enterprise level. And I think this is also invaluable, because when you work in smaller firms and smaller organizations, this, again, the scale depends, but usually it's much smaller and there is not so much cash to burn left and right. Like their margins are lower as well, so they have to be a bit more careful with that, whereas a big company is not like happy to waste the money, but they have the budget, they can afford to do A/B testing a lot and things like that. And that's, again, for you as a professional, I think moving forward, you get to see this firsthand and even work on it, and then that gives you a lot of understanding and a lot of experience and confidence, maybe, because when you later work with equally large numbers, right, or smaller ones, you feel like you know what you're doing. You're not worried about, oh, well, I mean, hopefully you're also experienced so you can actually do the job, but you're not so worried about like, oh my god, I'm working with so much money, I'm working with, like, there are so many people that depend on me doing this job right. My point number 3 is sort of controversial, because I don't think, again, that this is strictly a phenomena of the big companies, but I feel like because there's a lot more people, a lot more managers, and just yeah, a huge crowd in general. In big companies, it feels like there's a bit more politics going on, internal politics, at least again in my experience. And if you get to experience it, it kind of sucks. I mean, probably there are people who enjoy it. I don't. This was kind of borderline traumatic for me. But once you're exposed to it, and hopefully you're not sucked into it with all this, meaningless whatever people do, again, this gives you a great life experience. It kind of feels like, sorry, there are cookies, my dog's hair flying around. I think you obviously get those, politics anywhere in school, in a at university, in the workplace, anywhere else in the community that you are a part of. But there's something different about this corporate bullshit thing going on, where people are trying to pick up a fight with you. They're trying to kind of throw anyone under the bus, or they think that you're their competition for a role maybe, and it's just weird. And I think it's one of a kind a situation, circumstance that once you go through, you kind of again just understand more about yourself, people around you, how to navigate things. Maybe you make a few mistakes, you learn from them too, and yeah, it's not a great experience, not the best, but it gives you a lot of perspective for the future. And last but not least, I wanted to, again, probably a bit controversial because it obviously depends, but I feel like in general, overall, big companies, they help you set the bar high, your standards of work. And I think this has to do with a combination of factors. First of all, because it's a large scale business, right? They're enterprise, they can't really afford to do some random things and make mistakes. It's not going to look good. And also there are many more, again, budgets and just resources to track, to monitor how things are done. There's a lot of already procedures meticulously described and the standards set, and there is 500 managers overseeing everything and just making sure everyone at each level has done their job right. So I feel like even if your particular company that you work for, if you're working for a big company, for example, and you disagree with me, still in this big company, I feel like their standards are a bit higher than, the mediocre standards of the large company are a bit higher than the standards of high standards of a smaller business. And yeah, again, it has to do with their resources, with their procedures in place. Maybe they have access to resources or to training, right, that the smaller business does not. So they kind of implement all of those best practices, and they set up the expectations for the employees as well. And I felt this in all of the companies that I've worked with since, because I think one of them was equally big probably, but most of the companies I chose afterwards were on a smaller scale. But even though they were smaller, they obviously generate a lot of profit, a lot of turnover, and it's like not a two-man operation in a garage, no. But still, even though they were obviously doing very well for themselves, and they are still, I felt, that they were a bit more laid back and relaxed about things, and there were not so many levels of controls or expectations in general from me, from someone else. Were lower. They would allow things that I don't think would fly, at least not twice, in larger companies. And it's interesting to see this contrast. And I'm not sure one is necessarily better than the other. Both approaches to business can coexist, but I'm definitely sure that if you are working for a large company, you are put through a lot more, good and bad, and they definitely, again, it's just my speculation, but I kind of am sure in that they definitely help you become a better employee, an employee that's delivering good results no matter what they do. So yeah, those were my 4, I think, points why I think everyone should work in a large company at least once. And I'd also love to know if you have any thoughts about it, whether you agree with me or not. What's your perspective on this? I'd be very excited to read your comments, so please leave me any thoughts you have. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.